I've been thinking about the dash. You can see that it's seen, well, basically a lot of sun. It's virtually white in some areas. And if you compare it to the bottom half, you can see how there's a lot of colour that's been lost. It's been baked for 40 years or so. Now, I've read a number of ways that one can bring out the colour in plastics, and you've got some things like, or some techniques like using a heat gun, and you effectively apply the heat on the surface and it kind of brings it back to that colour. Now with this dash, I don't want to do that because I think that the heat gun method is probably a bit too aggressive, and whilst the dash is actually still quite good in terms of it's not cracking or falling apart, I want to be able to apply something that can just bring it back in a gentle manner. So the other option I've found was to use boiled linseed oil, and I've seen a few videos online and they look pretty good. It actually brings it back somewhat to what to what's required, to that colour. And anyway, I thought, well, I might as well give it a go. So rather than giving it a go on this, I'm going to give it a go first on a couple of pieces that I've got, old dash that's been heavily worn and cracked, and you'll see that in a moment. And then I'll review it after a few days. So I'll just go and have a look at the dash. So this is what I'm looking: linseed oil, or boiled linseed oil. And these are the sample pieces I'm using, and as you can see, that's very, very delicate. And this one's got various wear marks on it, like for example over here it's quite worn, and on the sides here as well. So what I'll do is I'm going to get my trusty sidekick, my son, to film me applying this to these pieces. And what I'll do is I'll apply probably half of that, and I'll apply in certain areas of this, and so we've got a bit of a compare and contrast between the two. So let's start doing that. Right, so here I am. I've got the linseed, and I've got my trusty sidekick here who's going to grab the camera in a second once he's finished eating the beautiful muffin. And let's apply that. So, right, here he is.
Right.
Okay. Right, so don't worry about the rag. The rag's an old rag, but obviously if I'm going to apply it onto my dash, I'm going to use a lint-free clean rag. So this is actually falling apart on me. A little bit more. And I am applying quite a bit of it on here. You can see this stuff is just, can you see that?
Yeah.
It's just disintegrating in my hand. Look at that. That's how sun damaged it is. Shocking. But that's the worst case scenario, where it's actually starting to crack and fall apart. Not that I'm expecting this to provide any miracles. I don't expect this to kind of suddenly turn this piece of plastic into something that's not sun damaged. Now the sun's going down, unfortunately, so it's not much, can't kind of see it that well, but maybe you can see that it's added a little bit more, and of course it's wet. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a little bit more there, let it set, let it dry. What I'll do now is I'll apply a bit on this dash here.
And then start again? No?
What do you mean?
Like as in
As in applying it here, you see?
Yeah. I thought you were doing it on the the plastic thing.
No, I'll do it on the Rangey afterwards. So there you go. So I'm being quite liberal. You can see how much I'm being quite liberal on that. So I'm just going to splash it on there. You see like that.
Oh, yeah, that's not going to be a clean. But alright,
just as I said, applying quite a bit. Can you see that?
Oh yeah, that's low.
Now it's always going to look good when it's wet, because obviously it's got that nice fresh look about it, but see what it looks like after a few days. I'll just apply it on this part here. Okay, so there it is there. Just close the lid so I don't kick and spill it over, because that's what usually happens. And there you go. So far it's compare and contrast between what I've just applied and alright, keep it outside in the sun as much as I can, and then I'll come back and show you the results to see if anything's changed or whether I need to reapply or anything. So as I said, I'm just trying this out, and what you're seeing is effectively a big experiment. So it's been 2 days I think since I applied the linseed oil, and I tell you what, it's done quite a good job. You can see it's returned some of the colour. If you compare it to, say, over here where I stopped applying it, and you can see the wear marks or the sunburn marks, and I've applied it across here up to about here, and all this area around here was completely pretty much white, like that colour there. So I'm quite impressed with the results, I must say. And this is the other bit that I applied. So I've applied it all around here, and you can clearly see where if I stopped applying it there, and there's the white, and there's a contrast between the two. It doesn't seem to leave an oily residue. I didn't mix it. Obviously the mix is for the application on timber, but I just applied it as is, as you saw in the beginning of the video, and left it to dry, wiped off the excess afterwards, and effectively it's just dry, no issues whatsoever. So I'm certainly going to be applying this to my dashboard once it's out, and I'll do a separate video on that, because what I want to do is I want to clean all the crevices first, make sure that the actual dash is 100% clean, and then I'll apply the linseed oil. So that's my take on linseed, and yeah, so far so good. Thanks for watching.